Welcome, everyone, to our Survivor podcast. My name is Justin, and I am here with my beautiful co-host, Rachelle. How are you doing today?
So good. So excited to talk about Survivor episode 2.
Yeah, Therapy Carousel is the name of it this time. A lot of scheming going on, a lot of back and forth. So one of the contestants felt like he was a therapist, having to deal with all these problems. So that's how they came up with the name, but we're glad to be here. Like you said, the epic party is over. Now it's a therapy session gone wrong. So we'll see how it played out. A lot of different challenges going on, a lot of people trying to figure out who to vote out, what to do, all that fun stuff. So we'll talk about how Coach, is he still honorable? He's always talking about being honorable and doing the right thing.
I always love the first episode of the season. Everybody's excited. Everybody's friendly, trying to make their alliances, scoping out their tribes, how are things going to go, and everybody's really excited. And by episode 2, the knives come out and
people are going home, so it gets real at that point.
Yeah, so I love once you get past episode 1, you really start they really start playing the game, and so I'm excited to talk about what happened.
Yeah, especially in this season with all the returnees, and they've got a lot of experience. Some have been on the show 2, 3, 4 times, and so this one's in the hands of the fans. We got the 3 tribes right off the bat: Cila, Kalo, and Vatu, 24 All-Stars with fan-voted twists. So we do want to pick up where the last episode left off with Kyle. He, I think the first scene of the show was Kyle going off on the boat, waving goodbye to his tribe. And we got some emotional feedback from Genevieve.
Yeah. Well, she took a big hit here because he was her big alliance, and now he's gone. And that's very unexpected to have him leave so soon in the game. And he's such a likable guy. So I think her game is affected, but also, she is going to miss this companion that she would have had with Kyle. And so it affects her in more than one way. And she does get a bit emotional about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they could have done really well together. So I can see how she was very hopeful, and now it's all gone. So she has to change her strategy, but I'm sure she'll adapt. That'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the name of the game in Survivor. You just never know what's going to happen. And injury is always a factor, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so we get some tribe tension in Tribe Cila with Joe and Rick Devens. They're talking about some stuff. They got some beef. There's some work ethic problems in another camp between the old and the young. And then some tribes win and some don't. So we're back to some repeats of what we saw last time. But as far as starting off with Genevieve, we don't get a lot with that tribe this episode. Seems like most of it is still centered around Cila and what's going on there, and we'll get into why a little bit later. But I want to know what's going on with Vatu and Kalo, because some of my favorite players are on those tribes. I mean, I am rooting for Joe to win it all, but I also want to see what's going on with Colby and Jonathan and Mike. But we're not getting that much of that. What do you think?
Well, that's true. I think the editing is always about where you're seeing more drama, and right now it is in Cila. And I love. Actually, I'm all for it, because I think this is just the quintessential debate about do you always tell the truth, or do you go in knowing that everybody's going to lie to you and you should trust no one? Yeah. In my experience, and I think what we've seen in the past, you really should trust absolutely no one. Yeah. So it is really interesting that Joe is, really pushing hard into his truth gameplay, But for him to expect that everybody else is going to play that way is just a wrong expectation. So it's fine for him to have his game and to sell that game to everybody else that he will be truthful, but to have an expectation that everybody else will play his way with him because that's the way he's choosing to play, I think is not it's just not a realistic expectation. And I think Rick is right on target with, hey, I'm gonna play the game. This is a game of Survivor, and here the rules are different than in the real world, and I'm gonna behave differently here than I would back at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that those two are on the same team together, same tribe, because Joe, like you said, all telling the truth. Rick, he's been known to be squirrely. Yeah. And we start to see that here in this episode. And I like what you said. He can't expect others to play the same way. And I think the last season he was on, 48, he was expecting that. And he held everybody to that standard when that necessarily wasn't their game. Yeah. And so these experienced players are picking up on that, and they don't like it.
Well, it could come to bite him, So he's playing this honesty game so that, people do know what to expect from him. But when you're his partner, meaning, or on his team, that they may be feeling, and they are feeling a bit threatened by it. So it really may come to bite him where he's not expecting. And that might, he may get an unexpected result, because I do feel like he's using this, this truth, virtue as something that would be a really good reason to carry him through to the end. Like, if you're going to partner with me, exactly what you're going to get. I'm always going to tell the truth. And so that is so you can trust me. And so that's a good reason to partner with me through to the end. And like, what he's not doing is listening to his other tribe members to take their cues and see if that's a strategy he should lean so hard into. Because I think you can play an honest game if you want to, but maybe don't push it so much on everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. And he is a newer of the new generation, even though him and Rick are probably the same age, if not Joe's older. And so he's used to playing it this way. The new generation is a little bit different. I think you can play both true and sneaky in both generations, but they have this, not only this clash between themselves on this team, but just the generational, because Rick grew up watching one way and Joe's seen more of this new way. And so that is conflicting right there. And so it'll be interesting if Joe does change his strategy. If he's like all of a sudden, okay, I'll do this, I'll play this way, and now you don't know what you're going to get from me.
I mean, we saw Rizzo flip-flop, right? Like, he caught on to some cues, and he was like, oh, I got to change my behavior right away, and that was probably really good for Rizzo, so let's see what Joe does. Is his EQ high enough that he can pick up on it and pivot? Yeah.
Speaking of Rizzo and his tribe, there's some tension there last episode with Colby looking at him like, who is this kid? This kid hasn't done an honest days of work in his life, and blah, blah, blah. And we get a little bit more of that in this episode with Q, kind of pretty much saying the same thing with Angelina. Yeah. Just flat out saying she's lazy.
I mean, there is a tone on Vatu of there are some really hard workers, and there are some people sitting back watching intentionally sitting back. Like Rizzo acknowledged, he's like, I did not come here to work hard. I came here to play the game. And he feels just fine letting other people do all the hard work. And I think it's his strategy to save his energy for the challenges, right? That is a strategy, but you also might make some enemies if you're not putting in your, it is a lot of hard work to just provide for your shelter and food. So if you're not contributing, people are going to pick up on that real fast.
Yep. And I think he started to change his approach there, especially when it got brought into the alliance. What do you think about that? Where Kyle's gone, so there's a vacancy. And so they're talking, it's Q and Colby, right? Talking on the beach, like, hey, we need to get somebody else. Should we bring in Rizzo? He comes in. They bring him in, and he's all excited. He's like, oh, they like me. I'm one of the old guys. I'm one of the crew. So that was fun to see his reaction there. Right. As he got included into the cool kids club, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they set some expectations of participation on in the camp, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, you can be part of our group, but hey, you need to pick up the slack, you know. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be fun. But like I said earlier, we don't get to see much of them.
Right.
Unfortunately. Maybe they're saving because it gets better with those guys later. And like you said, all the dramas in Cila. So, but one thing we kind of dogged on a little bit last episode is Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Boomerang Idol.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful. And how we thought it was pretty silly. And I still think that way. But there's a second one.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily that it's silly. It's just disappointing when you're so elated to have found an idol and then you open it up and realize, oh, I got to give it away.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a disappointing emotion to be so excited that you found it and then realize you have to give it away. Now, giving it away has its strategy too, and you may get it back, but I think neither one of those emotions is quite as strong as that emotion of the relief you feel when you have an idol in your pocket.
Yeah, because both Christian and Genevieve were really excited.
Yeah.
You could tell. But so Christian was talking about, well, who should I give it to? Blah blah blah. And then he doesn't really say in the moment, but then it cuts to Aubry. She has it, and she's like, oh, what's this? And so, but just before that, Genevieve and some of the others were going through her backpack because they noticed that she was keeping it close. And so Genevieve's like, no, she's got an idol in there. And so she goes off and they grab her backpack and start going through it. What do you think? What do you think about that concept in general?
I think that Aubry did this intentionally, and I think it was a brilliant strategy. I think she was carrying around her backpack intentionally, making it look like she would have an idol so that hopefully at one point when she did have an idol, she would not have to change her behavior. So what I mean by that is that it would be very obvious if you had kind of disregarded your backpack and you weren't vigilant about it. And then all of a sudden you get an idol and now you absolutely have to be vigilant because you know people are going to go through it.
Yeah.
And then it would be obvious. So Aubry was very protective of her backpack from the get-go. And so everybody thought she had an idol. And then, of course, as she expected, they did go through it. But the timing was just spectacular because they go through it, they find nothing, and then right after that, she's gifted an idol, and now she doesn't have to change her behavior. So now she can keep carrying it around and being protective, and now they're not going to know there is an idol in there because they've already checked it.
Yeah. So you think it was intentional on her part?
I think it was intentional, absolutely.
So
and a really great strategy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you do go in knowing that people are going to go through your stuff.
Do you think that's fair, though?
It doesn't matter if it's fair or not. This is Survivor, right? So, I mean, there's no rule that says you can't. This is only an ethics question. And I think, in the game of Survivor, those ethics questions go out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you can see why Joe's my favorite player.
Well.
Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, supreme gameplay by her, if that was intentional, which it looks like it was, so that's great. So, Christian, back to Christian. He's doing the fire thing or cooking or something around the fire, and all of a sudden he just stops and he looks and he's like, Joe, I will get back to you on that. And he goes off. And he apparently pooped his pants. Yeah. He had I don't know, I'm sure it happens a lot in Survivor. I'm sure I wouldn't be immune to that either. But I think it's the first time I've actually seen this happen. And so he's a little embarrassed. It was funny. Joe's making fun of him, that type of thing. But yeah, some humor there in this episode with Cila. It's not all drama. There's some fun times there, yes, with some poop jokes and things like that. So, do you think it happens a lot more than we see what they show? Oh yeah,
I think the digestive problems with a diet such as they have, they're eating a lot of coconuts, right? Or whatever. The amount of protein they can get is iffy, right? And that'll bring us to the reward challenge. But, their diets are completely reversed. And so no question, everybody's stomachs are just flipped on their heads, right? Yeah. And so I'm sure this one was particularly entertaining because it was so visual. I mean, they didn't make us look at the mess, thank goodness, but it was probably more visible than other situations, and so there was great opportunity for the editing here.
But they had fun with that. Yeah, so you mentioned the reward challenge for supplies, the water obstacle course, and nothing too crazy with it. I think we've seen all these elements in other recent Survivor seasons. So it's typical: jump off into the water, get the hoops, get the keys, walk across the beams, go to the other side, throw some hoops on some. Basically throw the ring on the post. Yeah. And whoever does it first wins. So pretty simple as far as in theory. It is challenging. It's physically challenged for sure. It's not easy to understand. But so two of the teams do really well. They stay on. I think one person falls off. Other than that, everybody just kind of goes through it pretty quickly. Except for back to Aubry. She's one of the last ones. I think second to last maybe on her team. Yeah. And so she jumps and totally whiffs it with hitting the target with the club. Mallet. Yeah, mallet. And so she has to go back up, climb back up, and do it again. She gets this a second time, but at that point, they're behind.
Too little, too late.
Yeah. So they're just behind. So she ends up costing them the top two to get some of the supplies. And the supplies are the fishing gear with the fins and the gun, the spear gun to shoot, and then you get a tarp too, which is pretty key in Survivor. So, what do you think about this challenge? Did you like it? Are these kind of getting boring? You've seen them so many times.
No, I mean, I think I love water challenges. I think I thought it was pretty challenging. The thing about Survivor challenges is that they have to do things that nobody is doing in real life. Like, how often are you jumping off a ledge and you've got to hit a clay tile in order to succeed? Like the amount of hand-eye coordination that all of these challenges take, is pretty, and it's not like they get a practice beforehand, you know? Yeah. So they are pretty challenging. They often make them look, most of the players make it look easier than it is. And then you have one player who brings us back to reality that, hey, these challenges are intentionally difficult. And so I think I could easily have missed as well. You don't want to be the person that delays the team, but it really can be anyone at any time. There's such a wide variety of skills that's required that, at any given point, it's going to be you that causes a delay for your team. And last time we saw that it was Cirie, this time it was Aubry. It's going to be somebody every time. Hopefully it's not you more than once is all I have to say.
Yeah. So they get the spears, and they show Coach. First they show Jonathan out spear fishing, and he's getting some, brings it back. They're all excited. Yay, protein, like you mentioned. We're going to eat good. And so Coach goes out with him. Coach cramps up out in the water. He can't swim. Has to be brought back on the boat. What do you think about Coach this time? You had mentioned last time, I think you were rooting for him for your top three somewhere. What are you thinking now?
No, that's completely changed. I think he's all talk and no action. He plays this persona of the sage and the old wise one, this is bizarre. This cramping up so quickly that he can't even swim. I don't quite understand why that happened. I mean, injury is injury, and but he almost sets himself up for failure because he talks about himself like he's really the hero of the team, and then he can't even catch a fish, because his legs cramp up. So now, again, we've talked about dietary needs. Whether or not they have bananas on the island, I don't know, but at the camps, I don't know, but if they do, he probably should eat a few.
Yeah, eat some more. Yeah. How do you think Coach and Joe would get along? Because if they stick around long enough, they'll probably end up together. They're kind of the same archetype, honor, truth, all that stuff.
Joe is the real deal and Coach is not. Yeah. And I think we saw that evidenced by the challenge where he stole the key from Ozzy. And, he claims to be full of honor and then now in that challenge, you could steal the key. But if you're so honorable, then the honorable thing would have not been to take the key. Ozzy did all of the hard work, and then he sat back and watched, and then he stole the key when he got the opportunity. Now, I have no problem with him stealing the key because that was part of the rules. You could steal the key, right? If it was on the ground, it was up for grabs. So that was part of the rules. But don't frame yourself as being so honorable in one breath, and then you do something a little bit dirty like stealing the key. So if you were honorable, what you would have done is you would have been working the whole time to get the key. That would have been honorable. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a little bit empty.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And there was a little fracas with Ozzy and Coach when they all came together, and Coach is like, I got to clear up the air. People are saying stuff about me and blah, blah, blah. He gives his little speech and everybody's rolling. Even people on his own team are rolling their eyes.
Well, this is it. Like, he should have just owned it.
Yeah.
And so he's still claiming to be honorable, but in one breath. And then in the other breath, he's like, yeah, but I saw an opportunity and I took it. And again, that's totally fine to see an opportunity and take it. You should, but don't say it was the honorable thing to do. Say it was the strategic thing to do. Say you saw an opportunity and you took it, for the benefit of your team, but don't call it honorable.
Yeah. So the immunity challenge, it's a pretty physical task. We got some big dudes. We got Colby and Jonathan and Joe. They're all out of breath in that first with this. They got to go grab this big old snake thing and bring it through the ropes. They got to carry it probably at least 100 yards, if not longer, to this ropes thing, bring it through the ropes, and then plant it in this spot, a certain spot. And there's only two of them that can do it. So these two big guys, they're exhausted. So it's heavy when I think it was Rizzo. It was Rizzo and some other skinny person. It's like, oh, that's the wrong pairing. But they were able to do it too. So it was exhausting, and then they had to do some other things. Eventually, they had to go to the end where they got to move the ball across the maze. Mm-hmm. There's three people with the ring and the ropes.
Tremendous amount of coordination.
Yeah, so you're exhausted, and you got that hand-eye coordination, and just little by little with the ropes, and that would be so difficult. This
was a very difficult challenge. Mm-hmm. This snake was heavy, but also very awkward to carry. It's heavy and it's very long, and there's not really a great way to handle it. So it's really a tough challenge to carry it as far as they had to carry it, and then you've got to drag it through the netting, and then you've got to land it where it needs to go. Very exhausting. And to your point, then you have to use all of this hand-eye coordination to be very targeted with two rings right next to each other. One's the right one, one's the wrong one. Very easy to make a mistake there after all that hard work and coordination across the maze. These are really, really clever challenges that they've put together, and just a really great battle.
Yeah. And I think I was going to bring up, well, we've seen the snake thing. I think it was even last season, definitely the last couple seasons. And we've seen the ring through the maze with the ball. But I think those, I'll put it all together in different, because it's not the same exact challenge, but they put this, add that. So the way they're combining them makes it more interesting and fun to watch. So, but here we have Vatu and Kalo win. And again, Cila doesn't cut it. They were close. But guess who was running the point on this challenge here at the very end? It was Cirie and Ozzy. And I forget someone else of the three of them. But that's two challenges that Cirie has cost them a win.
Which is really interesting because they're all strong members of the team.
Yeah.
And somehow they have not figured out how to become a team, which is really critical. And yeah, Cirie...
Yeah.
It's like we were just talking about. You don't want to be the detriment twice in a row. And here we see that she was. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. And we can't put it all on her, but she was a key part of that fail at the end there.
Yeah.
And it didn't come up. At least they didn't show us in the edit. You know, it wasn't, oh, Cirie lost again because of her and Ozzy. And
no doubt it didn't go unnoticed. We're bound to hear about it.
Yeah. And that's my biggest pet peeve is someone who costs the team the victory should be on the chopping block, like number 1 and number 2 going home. Because, you know, if you would have won, there's no question. You're staying, right?
On the one hand. On the other hand, if you're playing strategy, you do want to keep people that are less of a threat with you, and you know, you want to get rid of the threat. So there is a balance, and it's not just about keeping the skillful with you, right?
I can agree, but Cirie is one of the biggest social threats out of all three tribes.
That's true.
And she's skating by. I think they're not really showing us a lot of the behind the scenes stuff.
That's right.
Because in this, moving on to after the challenge and the camp talk after they lost, it's like, oh, should we vote for this person? Should we vote for that person? Oh, I want that person. A lot of that scheming going on, and that's where the title comes from. But again, it's hey, let's talk about these people, and then the end result is this other person who they barely mentioned is the one voted out. And so it seems to me that they're not showing who's running the show here.
Yeah.
Who's directing this and that and pointing over here, but we're going to do this. And I think it's Cirie and Ozzy. They've kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I think it's those two, and no one's picking up on it, or they're too scared to do anything about it, maybe.
Very clever observation. And it wouldn't surprise me because they are such skilled players. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few episodes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it does seem like Survivor editing is, you know, just classic. They only show you what they want you to see, right? And so because they do want to keep surprises for later. So we'll see.
Okay. No journey challenge or anything. It's just straight up the 2 challenges and then tribal council, basically.
Yep.
As far as we'll talk tribal right now. Like I said, they were all talking other people. Joe and Savannah was talked about a little bit. It seemed to be centered most on Joe, as far as who's go
because of his altruism.
Yeah, because there was an argument.
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about that. How Joe and Rick had some words, and I've heard, like I listened to one of Savannah's posts on Instagram, that it was a lot longer and more intense than what we saw. They actually edited some of that out. And so, but basically what happened is at that point, at the beginning of the episode, those 3 were in an alliance, or at least talking about it, and from the last episode. And so Joe observes Rick lean down and whisper to Savannah, and he's like, goes and asks Christian, like, hey, what were you guys talking about? It's like, oh, we're just strategizing, kind of general answer, no big deal, don't worry about it. But Joe's like, I don't know about that. So he goes and asks Savannah, and Savannah tells him, hey, don't let Joe know, or leave Joe out of this while we talk. And so then Joe goes back to Rick and confronts him, and Rick doesn't like that. And that's when we get into I play an honorable game. Or it doesn't necessarily use honorable, but I'm truthful and I'm upfront and you know what you're going to get with me.
Yeah.
And Rick basically takes offense to that. Like, dude, we're on Survivor. We're going to lie to each other. You're playing a game where we're going to lie. So what's the big deal? And then all of a sudden, everybody starts to flip. We don't know if we can trust Joe, or we don't know if we want Joe because it's a big hassle. It's hard to work around him with his truthfulness.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's that they couldn't trust him. I think it's exactly what you just said. How can we strategize effectively if we are always having to tell the truth being aligned with Joe? So if Joe was going to require us to be so truthful, we're probably not going to be able to play a great game. That's going to make it really difficult. He's basically tying our hands behind our back, and this is not going to work well for us. That's why I mentioned, previously that Joe's just not expecting that it could, shoot him in the back. So, and those are two very, very well polarized strategies, right? So Rick is all about I'm gonna lie when it is helpful to me. And Joe is that I'm never going to lie, and no one that I'm aligned with should lie either. And that is going to make it really difficult for them to work together. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, yeah. And then one last thing before they go to Tribal, Rick and Christian are talking, and Rick's like, hey, do you still have the tarp or the wrapping that the idol was in? It's like, yeah, pulls it out. So they come up with this plan to create a fake idol or a packaging that looks like an idol so someone might think that it is. And they're going to plant it at Tribal. So the next time they go, Rick will be like, oh, hey, look at this. He'll act like he found it, even though he's the one that hit it. And it's an idol. And then he won't say it is or it isn't, but people will think he has an idol, so then it'll deflect possibly votes against him. And so only him and Christian know that.
I think this is genius, and I cannot wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So at Tribal, when they're leaving after it's all over, he hides it. Christian pretends he trips, so everybody looks over there at him, and he puts it in these rocks. And Christian's like, oh yeah, I meant to do that. And so, yeah, it's planted. We'll see if it's still there. Maybe protection. I don't think they'll move it, but maybe someone from another tribe grabs it, or something. It'd be interesting to see, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, you plant your seeds where you can, and, you see what grows, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think something will come up if they spent time showing us that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah. But at Tribal, it's a blind side for Savannah.
Yep.
Right? Everyone votes for her, except for her, obviously. She votes Ozzy. And she's surprised. I was surprised.
Well, and think about it. She's just come off a win.
Yeah.
She made it clear to the end, so she's got a lot of confidence brewing. Yeah. And what she doesn't realize is that she is a very young player, both literally and with experience of the game. Mm-hmm. And she's starstruck too, right? She is the newest winner, but she's also very young in her age. And, this is one of the things that I was thinking about, and I'm so excited about this season. You and I, we're over 50, and a lot of the reality games are played by very young players. But Survivor 50, the median age is roughly about 43, which is much older, about 10 years older than typical of Survivor. The average age is 31. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of senior players, both in their age and in their experience with the game. Mm. And this is a disadvantage for Savannah, and we saw it play out here because she is young in both senses of the word, and she totally gets blindsided. I thought she was a really good player last season, but these are the surprises from Survivor 50 that makes it so exciting, right?
Yeah. Yep. And pretty solid with all the misdirect to Joe and we got to get him out. So I wonder if that was editing or if it was everybody focusing on Joe to distract Savannah to think that she's safe.
I'm
she had to steal a vote. Not that it would have mattered, but she had an advantage.
She did have an advantage. I mean, I'm sure they definitely edited out conversations. We didn't see some conversations, but maybe they really were pretty. They clearly weren't obvious with their discussions because Savannah had no idea.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're too obvious, it will be noticeable. So they were probably pretty discreet with it, and it was effective.
Yep. All right. Well, so are you satisfied with the result there with Savannah? You good with that? I
mean, satisfied is an interesting adjective. I don't know if I'm satisfied, but I thought it was really. I loved the surprise. I loved. It doesn't make me sad to see a winner not win. You know.
Yeah.
So, I like the drama of it.
Okay.
What about you?
No, I'm not satisfied. I still think this tribe is not being very smart. And maybe there's stuff that we're not seeing. That's the reason why. But why aren't you going after Cirie and Ozzy? They're starting to pick up. Emily's picked up on it. She knows that are very strongly suspects that they're working together.
Yeah.
And no one else is listening, or they don't. Maybe they're like, oh, we'll get her later. When that's not a good idea.
Right. Right.
So, and Cirie, she's so good. That's why I think you got to get her. I like her. She's very nice, and everybody says the same. She's so nice, and I like her, but we got to vote for her. You know, it's the same thing. I was like, yeah, you got to get rid of her. She's gonna get you. Well,
here's the thing. I mean, what we don't see is just the difficulty of living out on at the camp with so few resources, and some people are so annoying. I mean, just you're with people 24/7, right? You're sleeping so close to them, you're eating close to them. They're, I'm sure, like burping and farting and doing all sorts of annoying things. So when there's a likable person, whether you're conscious of it or not, this will make a difference in your decision making, because everything is so unpleasant about this game. And so if there's someone that's likable, like maybe that impacts their decision.
Yeah, even just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of fun stuff this episode. Next episode, they teased a little bit. At some point, I'm assuming it's next episode, a tribe swap. So that'll be interesting if it's happening
already.
Let's go. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Because if they keep going, I don't think Cila's going to last very long. I think they'll lose the next one. We see that over and over in these opening episodes with tribes that just
plenty of strong players, and they're not delivering.
They're
not delivering. So it's that'll be exciting.
Yeah, it'll mix things up, which will be great. And then just a little feedback. We got some feedback from our first episode that we posted. Definitely look for us on Instagram and TikTok. And watch our stuff there. On YouTube, we'll post this podcast episode on YouTube, and then you can check it out there, follow and subscribe to the channel. But we have had some comments, and like I said in the last episode, if you comment, we might choose to acknowledge it. So we want to do that. I won't name names on this one, but there were some comments on our TikTok posts about Kyle. We had said that, which is want to do on social media, so I get it. But if someone makes a mistake, it's very easy to point it out. Oh, you said this wrong, or you blah, blah, blah. And so I had said, and Kyle was the last one up the wall, and that's how he got injured. And a couple people pointed out he wasn't the last one up the wall. And I wondered about that. In the edit, I went back and read some reviews or some articles from Entertainment Weekly, and the way they edited it made it look like he wasn't the last one up the wall. But in reality, he was. So I was right. But that's not the point. The point is, thank you for commenting. Thank you for engaging with us. Right or wrong, it's fun. But to lay it out how it went, Kyle was actually the second person. He came down to help Colby get up because he was tired from pushing everybody up the wall. So Kyle pushed him up the wall, and then he tried to get up by himself once, slipped down, and on his second try, as the last person up the wall, is when he tore his Achilles.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
He
how it went
didn't
down.
have anybody else helping him up,
Yeah.
and
He was tired.
He was trying to run up, and
So anyway, that's the order of how that happened, just to set the record straight for anybody who's listening. But there was another comment. I think one of us had said the tribal council challenge, and we had misworded it because when we get talking, we're just we're on camera, and we have to remember all this stuff, and so sometimes we get it wrong. We label things wrong or just out make a mistake. So please point out mistakes that we make so we can correct them. But yeah, we should have said not tribal council challenge, because that does imply there's a challenge at tribal council. Maybe someone's like, what? Did I miss something? And it was immunity challenge.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to tribal council.
Yeah. We'll try to get that right. But we're definitely not perfect and just trying to have a great conversation. So thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. So those are some kind of neutral, not necessarily negative, but neutral-ish. We did get a positive one from our son who said, "You guys are awesome. You keep doing it." Something along those lines. So thank you, son. Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate you watching. But we do want to thank you guys for watching and commenting and participating with us. It's fun. We enjoy this. It's fun to watch the shows together. We're empty nesters, so we're watching a lot of TV now.
Yeah.
And we've all, like we said in the last episode, we've always been Survivor fans. We kind of getting back into it now that the kids are gone and we don't have to go to all these basketball games and band performances and things like that. So we have a lot of time and we're watching it together. We're doing this together. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully we can continue and just have fun with it. So we want to thank you guys for joining us on this journey. And any last takes before we wrap it up, Rachelle?
It's early in the season. I think a lot of surprises are in store, and I'm very excited for it. Keep watching.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.
See you later.